Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Ventana Wildlife Society's The Condor Chat. I'm Kelly Sorensen, Executive Director at Ventana Wildlife Society. And here you can hear directly from the field staff working in the field where we're recovering the California condor here in Central California and working with partners all throughout the range of this species. We started this effort almost 30 years ago and tirelessly working toward this goal. And just want to take a minute to talk about a recent research paper that came out. I'm actually going to post it in the chat. And it's called Behavioral Shifts Mask the Success of Legislation and Outreach for Endangered Species Recovery. And I put a link there, so if anybody wants to take a look at and read it for yourself later on, please do. Very proud of this work. Our very own Joe Burnett and Mike Stake are both co-authors of this work. And one of the things that, one of the key takeaways that I wanted to share with you is that the data shows that the legislation and the outreach that we're doing, both reaching contacts, hunters and ranchers, and also providing free non-lead ammunition, is working. That's the good news. It's going in the right direction, and it's lowering mortality, and that's what the effort is all about, of course. It also shows that despite those successes, we are still seeing high levels of lead poisoning. And that's because the birds themselves are expanding their range and going into new areas where our outreach hasn't been effective yet. And so it just goes to show we're on the right track. We know it's working. We just need to know we need to do more of it. And this research paper really backs that up in spades. And so I just really wanted to share that with you and hopefully take a moment to take a read. Moving along here, just want to mention, if you're new to this chat, they're typically held on the last Thursday of the month, every month. And if you're on YouTube, you can watch it after the fact, live or after the fact. And if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like. And I guess I'll just turn that over now to Joe Burnett, the senior wildlife biologist on our condor recovery program.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, exciting about the publication coming out. We have a full chat for you today. Here's the agenda, and more exciting, we have Molly Murphy here, our special guest. She's going to give a presentation, and I'll give her a brief introduction here shortly. But also, we'll give a condor up. Stick around because after Molly's update or presentation, we'll give an update on the flock. We'll cover the population. We've got some cool photos to show from March. Got really exciting stuff on the San Simeon release birds. The rookies have been broadening their range and have some exciting updates there. And then, of course, updates on the 2025 fledglings. We got some nesting updates. And of course, at the end, we'll have time for questions. Mike will field any of your questions. And those would be we'll actually do a short question right after Q&A right after Molly's done, specific to her presentation, and then we'll move on to the update. And the next chat is April 30th, 2026. So mark calendars and join us on that Thursday, April 30th. And our special guest. Thank you for coming, Molly. And Molly is a California condor nest biologist at Santa Barbara Zoo. Santa Barbara Zoo is a really important partner in the condor program. We worked with them for years, and yeah, so glad to have them on board. They do a lot of this nest work, which Molly's been doing. She's going to provide us looks like a SoCal nesting update, and her presentation is on how she is using drones to monitor condor nest. And little background on Molly. She's been in this nest biologist position since 2023. And prior to condors, she worked with northern elephant seals in San Simeon. That's close to home to our San Simeon release site. She received her master's from Cal Poly conducting research on mother-pup vocal recognition in elephant seals. Prior to elephant seals, she worked as a zookeeper in Buffalo, New York, where she's from, and as a park naturalist for Niagara Falls State Park. She received her bachelor's from Canisius, did I say that right? Canisius University in Buffalo in animal behavior, ecology, and conservation. So everybody, welcome Molly. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. Super excited to be here. My screen shared.
Do I have to stop? I think I need to stop mine. Hang on. Go for it. There you are. Everyone see Molly's presentation?
All
Awesome.
right, you can see that all right?
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you for the intro. Thank you so much for the invite. Super excited to be here, talk about nesting in Southern California. So let's just start off with the Southern California range for if you are not familiar. So we have two main refuges where we feed the birds. Down here is Hopper Mountain National Wildlife Refuge, and up here is Bitter Creek National Wildlife Refuge. And this is where we see our birds most often, but you can see that their range expands far outside of these refuges. Now, for just a brief history to introduce Southern California specifically, 1987, we all know the condors underwent significant population decline. 1987, the last one was brought into captivity for captive breeding. In 92, we released the first one back into the wild. And then in Southern California, we had our first nest in 2001. But it wasn't until 2004 that we had our first wild fledge. Between 2001 and 2006, we only had 2 fledges from 17 eggs that were laid. So because of this, we started the nest guarding program. And the nest guarding program here, it has 2 main objectives. This program is still going on today. The first objective is to maximize nesting success in wild condors and to identify the leading causes of nest failure that we are seeing. And we do these through nest observations and nest entries. So for nest observations, most commonly we are using just the old-fashioned scope observations here, where we hike out to the nesting area, set up our scope, and we're just looking through the scope at the nest, waiting to see something. If we can, we will do a nest entry and we'll set up a live streaming camera, which is super helpful. If we are lucky enough that the nest is in a place with cell coverage, we will put in what we call a spy point, which is what these 2 pictures are from. And that is basically just a game camera that connects to cellular data, and it will transmit the images each night, which is also very helpful for monitoring our nests. However, if our nest does not have cell coverage, we will put in just a standard game camera when we do our nest entry, which is what these 2 pictures are from, and we can get some great photos from inside of the nest at the end of the nesting season. We'll go back and recover that camera. And we do our nest observations every 30 days to make sure that the nest is still active and that the chick is healthy. And again, most of these are through our scope observations. We still do nest entries down in Southern California. We do these opportunistically, so whenever we can, we will enter the nest to check the egg viability. So if the egg is not viable or it's not fertile, we will remove that egg in hopes that the pair will recycle and lay another egg that season. And we'll also put in a game camera or a spy point, which is what you can see over here. And then we'll also enter the nest when the chick is 120 days old, and we will do a health check on the chick, and we will add tags and transmitters to the chick. Now, recently, we started a drone program to monitor the nests. This will be our second nesting season, testing out this new program. We started drones for several reasons, a big one being that many of our nests are just very far away from the observation point. So that tiny red dot there that just popped up is about 1.7 miles from the observation point. So even with a powerful scope, you are not seeing inside of that cavity, and you really just have to wait and hope to see a bird flying around. Some of our nests are just not visible from the observation point. So this nest is actually on the other side of that rock structure. So again, you have to wait for the chick to come out, or you have to wait for a parent to show up, which is not guaranteed to happen. And then in Southern California, our birds nest in rock cavities. Sometimes these are just really small openings. You cannot see inside of them with a scope. So you can see this chick here entering its cavity. And these things, they make nest checks very difficult. You have to either wait for the chick to appear to come out of its cavity, or wait for the parents to show up, which we all know is not a guarantee to happen. And oftentimes we'll have to go back to the nest observation point multiple times to confirm that that nest is still active. And we've had as many as 17 nests in a season, so that can just be very time consuming. So we started using drones with one of the main objectives to increase the efficiency of these nest checks. Each nest observation, standard nest observation with a scope, takes a full day because it's usually a couple-hour drive, a long hike, and then a 4-hour observation. And if you can't confirm that the nest is still active, or if it's failed, you have to go back multiple times. So we also hope to use drones to confidently confirm that the nest is successful or that it's failed, because again, it's not guaranteed to see the parent or the chicks during the nest observation, so it can be hard to confirm that the nest is still active or not. And then importantly, we are identifying approach strategies with the drone that do not affect the condor's behavior. Now we have a very straightforward approach. We want to see the nest without disturbing the birds. So we launch the drone, proceed to the nesting cavity until it's visible, and then consider this successful if we can see that nest clearly and if we don't cause any behavioral changes to the birds. And we would consider it a failure if we cause the bird to flush or fly away from the nest, or we cannot see the cavity clearly. Now, during our flights, we have a pilot, a drone observer, and then a condor observer that is looking at the condor's behavior. Now, we've, again, just started this program, but preliminary results, we are seeing no behavioral changes to the birds when we fly in line with the nest. So if this is the nest here, approach the nest from straight on rather than coming from above. Also, starting far away from the nest and then approaching slowly. So we launch the drone, fly to about 300 feet from the cavity, and then slowly approach to about 100 feet, rather than flying right to 100 feet, which we found can cause if there's a parent there, which can cause the parent to flush and fly away, likely because it's loud and it's probably scary. We are seeing that drones can be significantly faster than regular scope observations. The whole setup, flight, and takedown can be less than an hour, whereas a scope observation is up to 12 hours of observations. And this is important because as the population continues to grow, we will have more nesting pairs, their land use is becoming more and more widespread, and with drones, we can potentially effectively monitor more nests. Now, we did run into a couple difficulties, the main one being that you cannot always see inside of the cavity. Sometimes it's just too deep, too heavily shadowed. So this is a picture that we took with the drone of a cavity. There is a chick in there, you just can't see it. It's just too dark. So we started to use a thermal camera. And again, we're in the very beginning stages of using the thermal camera. We've had some success. So this video, hopefully you can see it clearly. If it's skipping, it doesn't really matter. It's just to show the flight into the canyon. Really just the last picture you'll see is the most important. So this is a very sped up video. On the left is the normal camera. On the right is the thermal camera. These two videos are happening at the same time. We can see both cameras on the screen at once. So this is one single flight. Now on the left here is that cavity that we were just looking at. You can't see it. It's very dark. You can't see the chick. But on the right here, you can see in that cavity that little chick standing right there. So you can see that clearly on the thermal camera. And here's a better picture of that chick there. So you can see his little head and his little feet. So we are seeing that using drones, and particularly the thermal camera, can be potentially an effective tool for nest management. It does not seem to affect condor behavior. We've only just started. We've flown at 5 different nest sites so far. Again, some successful, some not, but we're hoping that with more practice, some more camera configuration, we'll be able to successfully perform nest checks on all cavities, regardless of the cavity shape or size. And in the future, we hope that it can be an effective tool for locating potentially sick, injured, or missing birds. Okay, so that was my update on what we've been doing with drones in SoCal. And for the last few minutes, I'd like to just give you an update on our nesting birds in Southern California. But first, I would like to acknowledge that it's been a hard few months down here in Southern California. We've lost 5 breeding-aged females these past few months, so I just want to tell you a bit about them because they're all very important to us. So first here we have 216. She was 25. She was the queen of the Bitter Creek Refuge. She had a mate for 13 years and she had 5 chicks. 810 here, she was 9. She had a mate for 4 years and unfortunately she never successfully fledged a chick. 926, she was 8 years old. She was in a trio with 2 males. Unfortunately, she never had a nest with them. We were hoping that this would be her first time having a nest. They found a nice cavity together, but she just didn't have the chance. Our most recent death from a few weeks ago was 1043. She was 6. Again, she never had a nest. She recently established a territory and found a potential mate, but she just didn't get the chance. And then lastly, we have 1027. She was a Central California bird, beloved by us all. She moved down to Southern California, established herself here. Again, she had just found herself a territory and a potential mate, and we were hopeful she would have her first nest this year, but she just did not get the chance. So these are our 5 birds that we are missing, but enough sadness for now because we have lots to be thankful for, like our 2025 babies that we have flying around. We had 4 successful fledges last year. All of them are untagged, so we are very excited for this year's trapping season. We hope that we can get them all tagged and equipped with transmitters. 2 of these chicks over here, they are the first chicks to ever be fledged by their parents, which is very exciting. This chick up here with the beautiful feathers is the second chick to be fledged by its parents. And this guy down here is the 5th by its parents, and that is actually the chick of 216, who I just mentioned. Unfortunately, she just passed away a few months ago. So very exciting for these 4 fledges. And then for this year's nest, we currently have 8. So I want to highlight a couple of them that we know a little bit more information about, such as this one here, parents 755 and 749. We recently did a nest entry, which is where all these pictures are from. We candled the egg and we added a game camera into the nest, and we found that that egg is viable. So the egg is viable, it's looking good, and that chick should be hatching in about 2 weeks. So very exciting. And then the second nest I want to talk about is with parents 462 and 846. We also entered this nest. We had some folks from the LA Zoo join us, which was great. And again, we candled that egg to check the egg viability. Unfortunately, this egg was not viable. We removed the egg from the cavity in hopes that the parents will recycle and lay another egg, since this was pretty early in the season, so we were hopeful for that. And then we have all of these nests. So We have these 8 nests total. We have not done nest checks on these last 6 nests yet, so we don't know. We are hoping that the eggs are viable and that they are doing well. Some of these nests are just too remote to do entries, so we'll be monitoring them from afar. But some of them are accessible, and we have some entries planned for the next few weeks, and we'll hopefully find out more information. So in the meantime, we are just wishing them well, crossing our fingers that everything is good. So yeah, in Southern California, we have 7 active nests and the one that failed. And we have a few more pairs that we are hoping will start nesting within the next few weeks. And that's all I have on a Southern California update. So thank you so much. And I'm really happy to have joined this month's chat.
Thank you so much, Molly. That's really exciting. News about all the nests. That's 8 nests. Yeah, we have a update on Central, but yeah, you guys are off to a good, really, really good start.
Very good. We just confirmed 3 within the past couple days, so it was a good week.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard that. I'd last I'd
Mhm.
heard was right around 5, so that's
Mhm.
super awesome. Yeah, we do have time for questions. I thought it'd be good to ask around now, Mike, if you think we can squeeze some in. I see
Yes,
a lot of.
definitely. Let's squeeze in a couple. Molly, what is the size of the Southern California population right now?
We have, I believe it's 97 birds. I would have to double check that.
Okay, well, that's a
Yep.
that's a good answer there, and it's incredible. No disturbance to the birds. Are the birds curious at all about the drones? Do they show any attention to them whatsoever?
They will look at the drone, but other than that, they don't really care and they don't react to it. We have flown a drone with the chick outside of the cavity, just perched on a rock. Actually, that picture that I showed earlier in the presentation, the chick just stood there. It looked at the drone briefly, maybe for a couple seconds, but other than that, it didn't really care that it was there, which is great news for us.
Yeah. Do the drones make noise?
They do, yes. They do make noise. It can be pretty loud, which is one of the reasons that we approach very slowly, just to help keep that volume down. And we don't fly closer than 100 feet from the cavity, so we're still pretty far away from the birds. Our camera has a 30 times zoom lens on it, so we're able to see pretty close up, even from far away.
And what's the maximum flight time for these drones? How long are they generally in operation?
This drone specifically with the batteries it has, it can fly around 30 minutes, but our flights are usually less than 5 to 10 minutes. They're pretty quick.
And what's the cost of the drone?
Oh, this drone specifically, we were limited in the drone we were able to purchase because since we fly on federal lands, it had to be a 100% American-made drone. So this drone with the basic setup that it came with was about $12,000. We've made some updates with our new camera um, since then.
Do you believe that this might be an effective and reasonable way to monitor other species nests, or do you think disturbance might be more of a factor for other species?
Yeah, I think it depends on the species. With vultures specifically, there aren't a ton of studies out there yet. There are some studies using drones to scare away turkey vultures, specifically from like dump sites. Uh, but I think it can be an effective tool. Drones are used widely across many species, and they seem to be used effectively. Um, in terms of other vulture species specifically, it's kind of up in the air, but they are definitely an effective management tool for many different species.
And I suppose you could think of nest monitoring in general having some risk of disturbance to birds. And there could be situations maybe where a drone could reduce some of that disturbance that might otherwise occur, even if it might introduce some disturbance on its own.
Exactly. We used to enter nests every 30 days. which in itself is a huge disturbance to the birds. And now we only do it 2 times max. So for those other 30-day checks, we are able to start to use the drone more for those checks rather than entering the nest, which is much less disturbing to the birds.
And do we know the cause of death for any of these 5 birds that died?
We do. Most of them were lead poisoned, and a couple of them were actually predated. We don't have specifics on that yet, though.
And a viewer has asked me to ask you what it's like to spend a night in a condor cave. Now, is that something that you've done? Is that something that you can talk about?
I personally have not done that. I have heard stories from people who have heard stories from other people of having to spend the night in a condor nest for if they had to evacuate the chick, or for some reason a person will spend the night in the cavity so that the parents don't abandon the cavity. I personally have not done that, so I can't speak on it myself.
Okay.
But I imagine it would be very cold.
Now, Ventana, they once in a while will go out and we'll proffer a calf carcass to condors. Is that program, is that something that is being done in Southern California? Do you offer proffered food to the condors?
We do at both of those feeding sites that I mentioned at the beginning, so at Hopper Mountain and at Bitter Creek. We don't offer food all year round for both of those refuges. We concentrate it around when we are trapping the birds, and then when we are releasing the birds from the zoo, we will proffer food for them.
Very good. Thanks so much for the update. I'm going to throw it back to you, Joe.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Molly. And yeah, good luck with the rest of the nest season down there. And yeah, we hope for lots of nest in Central and Southern California this year. And you're doing awesome work. And yeah, just keep us posted. Maybe we'll have you back in next year and for an update.
Great. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm excited
Yeah,
to
feel
hear.
free to stick around too, and you know, for
Mhm.
our update.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get back to it here. Well, that was awesome. All right, so starting out with our update. Before I get going, I want to obviously give a big shout out to the crew. Again, I'm Joe Burnett, the Condor Program Manager. Mike Stake, everyone knows, Don Lett Outreach Manager. We have our awesome Condor Biologist. Darren Gross is here today. Wave to everybody, Darren. There you are. We have Danae Mouton here, who hasn't been here in a little while. Welcome back, Danae. And Kara, we're going to get her back next month for sure. She's been busy out in the field, but we will get her back on the chat next week, next month.
Well, she's been doing some non-lead too.
That's right. So she's been working hard. Yeah, and our GIS specialist, Evan McGreeth, and our database designer and awesome volunteer, Tim Huntington. We have a lot of his photos featured here today, so keep an eye out. Actually, there's one right there on the right. And of course, our veterinarian advisor, Dr. Amy Wells, and our awesome team of volunteers. Can't thank them enough that go out and track the birds for us and watch our cams. And it's just super awesome. So I definitely want to give them a huge shout out. All right to the Central California population. We are at 113. As you notice, that number dropped. We were at 115 last month, and unfortunately, we lost a couple birds. So far this year, we've lost 3 pinnacle birds. Pinnacle bird 912 in February. The necropsies are pending for. I want to speak a little more to the next 2 birds that we've lost. We have some slides to show. We also have some missing birds. Unfortunately, Diane 1011 has been missing since May 2025, and Rachel 1042 since January 2026. And just as a total for last year, for 2025 we were at 9 deaths. We just found out 892, a bird that died at the end of 2025, did come back. That bird did die of lead poisoning, unfortunately. And then quick back to the top there, the number of fledglings for 2025 is still at 5. We had 2 at Pinnacles and 3 at VWS on the Big Sur. And the number released is at 13. So we are cruising along there. Unfortunately, we do have some sad news. I'm going to have Danae or Darren come and jump in here. I don't know which one you guys want to speak to, but both are heartbreaking for sure.
Yeah, I'll get started. But yeah, Pinnacles Bird 986, Kakakot. Apologies for any mispronunciation there, but yeah, this means winged one from the Hokshaman tribe. Yeah, this bird hatched it in the San Diego Wild Animal Park in 2019 and was released from Pinnacles in 2020. It was a 7-year-old male, and yeah, Pinnacles they noticed something was off with this bird. It wasn't moving around much, and they were able to trap him and bring him up to Oakland Zoo for treatment. And while he was in care there, is when he passed. And so, yeah, he spent most of his time over closer to Pinnacles National Park and kind of east of the coast. He was a rare visitor out here. Um, but yeah, I mean, another bird, and kind of like the next one, 2996, just a kind of what we've been seeing with some of the mortalities that we've been sharing with you all is like, another bird that was really just reaching their prime, kind of like really getting into breeding age, potentially get like pairing up and having a nest that the potential for that was right around the corner. And so, yeah, just losing more birds too soon. Yeah, and then 996. This was a wild hatched bird who hatched in May 24th, 2019. So similar age to 986, and yeah, he was the son of 606 and 569 Phoebe, but was raised by Phoebe and Pinnacle's Condor 589. He was a 6-year-old male, and yeah, still the necropsy is still pending. Um, Kara and I recovered him after he had passed on the coast recently, and so we were able to send him off to Oregon or to the lab that we use in Oregon to do a necropsy, and yeah, we'll update you all when we get the results of that. But yeah, again, another bird gone too soon, and he was a more frequent visitor on the coast. He was actually in one of our uh, highly pathogenic avian influenza vaccine cohorts at SPCA. He was one of the birds that we held there to give 2 doses of the vaccine. So yeah, we saw him quite a bit on the coast, but he kind of traveled all over, and yeah, just a kind of a staple of the flock that is now gone.
Yeah, heartbreaking to lose these birds just coming of age,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just
and
about.
996 was the first chick that I saw fledge from Pinnacles. He hatched the year that I started there in 2019, and I have a lot of very fond memories of watching him. He fledged like a month later than we were expecting him to, so I was doing a lot of nest checks on that nest and just waiting for him to fledge. And he was kind of a late bloomer in that way, but it was really cool to see him more recently out on the coast and displaying to birds and kind of reaching that breeding age. Definitely gone too soon, and yeah, the genetics there were a fun surprise when we trapped him and handled him for the first time or did a nest entry and got the genetics back. Because 569 and 589 are a pair that are still together now and still raising chicks. But 606 kind of, got in there early in the breeding season and ended up being the father of this chick, which was really cool. And it's not something that we see super often. So yeah, 996 was a special one for sure.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Danae. Yeah, they won't be forgotten, that's for sure. They still contributed to the flock. Their like we say, their legacies live on. They definitely made a huge contribution. Unfortunately, they had to make the ultimate sacrifice, but yeah, their spirits will live on for sure. So Martian photos. Yeah, the photo on the left there, we all love this view. It's kind of like the Condor tree of life, and yeah, this is from Sue and Bruce Graham. Thanks for letting us share this with everyone. But we had a great day up there, and we got to see I think the Untagged's one of those ones on that, one of our untagged chicks. But classic birds of a feather gather together is tried and true in that shot. And then of course the photo on the right, Tim Huntington captured a pretty magical moment. I believe he was over at Pinnacles caught the full moon, and yeah, pretty spectacular shot. As is this one. Pretty amazing photo of a bird. Just looks like it just took flight, and Tim was in the right spot over there at Pinnacles. You can kind of see the rock formations in the background, but just a really crisp, beautiful shot. Just really shows you how graceful the condors are for such a massive bird. They're incredibly graceful to see fly. And I think Tim's photos capture that magic that we all love to see when we see a condor in its perfect flight mode. But yeah, you really can see how the feathers are bent up and capturing the wind, and pretty amazing. This is a shot. I was coming just up there at the condor site in Big Sur, and you just get these magical sunsets. Hard to describe a picture like this, but it's a pretty magical place. This is where the condors get to call home, so not too shabby. Another amazing photo, Tim capturing some really awesome breeding behavior, some courtship displays here. Um, yeah, and this is a trio right here we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, another cool moment to watch. Just watching a condor do courtship is pretty amazing. And yeah, he captured a really cool moment here with the bird in full wing display here, courtship display. I love you can see the bird's lifting his right foot. He's in the middle of, I guess we call it the courtship dance, but they kind of hobble around. Folks that watch the cams have probably seen it. But it's a pretty cool dance these condors have. All right, the rookie update. We got some happening news from the rookies. They're branching out right there.
Yeah, we've really seen in the last month kind of more members of this cohort sort of like start feeling the sense of adventure. Yeah, we had some birds that some individuals that had been adventurous kind of from the start since release. One of them being Huckleberry here, 1290. He is the first of last year's rookie cohort to make it to our Big Sur site. And I'm sure he followed some birds that were visiting San Simeon back up the coast to Big Sur here, where a lot of the action is happening. And yeah, you can see him here with 1200 and also 1226 Pongo. And yeah, he spent, I don't know if he was there for that long, but he came, he checked it out. He knows it's there now. And yeah, this is a pretty big flight. So especially for this soon after release, only a few months. So pretty awesome to see that he's already made it up here, but he went back to San Simeon not too long after coming up here to go back. I think it was probably a little more comfortable down there for him still. But yeah, really cool to see him up here.
Well, it's got to be like a condor overload for these young birds that come up and go, "Oh, whoa, what's happening up here?" You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
like even 1200 there. That is a funny photo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it seemed again. I don't know how warm a welcome he received when he was in Big Sur. I think with some of these other birds that are closer to his age, kind of his contemporaries, he's fitting in all right. But yeah, definitely saw some birds that he's never seen before, and that he it might be a while before he goes and interacts with those guys again.
Yeah, big thanks
Um,
to our Explore viewers for capturing these photos.
Yes, yeah, big
Um,
shout out to our Explore viewers who are on it, watching the cameras like hawks and capturing these moments, especially Jess 828 and Newbie 16. We've got a few screenshots that they've got throughout the rest of the chat because they captured some pretty awesome moments.
you got
So
to
yeah,
give it to
check it out.
Huckleberry. I mean, come on. I mean, he wasn't the first to go out of the release pen, but he's really stepping up.
Yeah, he's traveling far, but the others aren't far behind him. I was
I know.
just thinking as we were getting on, they're really, I mean, except for going out over the ocean, they've really started expanding in all directions. We've had birds kind of south of Cambria, birds that are going like east over toward Pinnacles, still not quite to the park yet, but still like south of that area. They've released this past month, and especially the past couple of weeks have been big for their movements, which has been cool to see. Yeah, and then I'll start off with talking about some of the fledglings from this past year, and then yeah, Danae, feel free to chime in when you want. Yeah, on March 7th, we had our first confirmed visual of two untags at our Big Sur sanctuary at the same time. Yeah, from based on the interactions we've seen, we believe it's 1371 Aloni, who's 219 and 538's chick, and then 1372, who is 574 and 1006's chick. But yeah, they've more and more frequently we're seeing two untags on the slope, and they seem pretty fond of each other. It's been cool to see them interact with each other.
Yeah, and we were actually able to confirm that 1372 has made it to the sanctuary as well. So yeah, the two of them have been spending a lot of time together, and their parents are still coming to the sanctuary. 574 and 1006 are 1372's parents. So they've been hanging around more often, keeping an eye on their little youngster. And then 219 and 538 are 1371's parents, and they also, I think 219 more so than 538. 219 has been giving that chick quite a few free handouts and free meals, even though they know where the carcasses are and they feed from the carcasses as well. I think 219 is a bit of a softie, so he's keeping 1371 very well fed.
Well, I remember he fed Penny for, I mean, way past a year and a half. I would see
Yeah.
when that bird was over 2 years old.
I think he fed her when they were incubating, like when 538 was on the nest incubating an egg, he was still feeding Penny, so like 2 years after.
Yeah, I love the photo on the right with the, excuse me, the yellow arrow. Just seeing them, those two gravitate to each other is pretty cool. I mean, they're sitting there neck wrestling. It's like they're best buds.
Yeah, there's a pretty interesting like size difference between them as well. I know the Explore viewers have noted that too. But if I had to put money on it, I think I would say 1371 is probably a male and 1372 might be a female, but there's a lot of overlap in the size between the sexes, so it's hard to know for sure. But if I had to wager a guess, I'm getting those vibes, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we're always looking for, especially molt differences in the chicks. Most of them are perfect, they have all feathers intact, and it's really hard to tell them apart. But after they get out in the wild for a while and start feeding with the other birds, one of them end up chipping breaking a feather. So we're constantly looking for any little telltale differences in the youngsters. So yeah, for the regular cam viewers, keep an eye out. And let us
Yeah,
know if you see any of those differences.
when I was up at the sanctuary earlier this week, I got to see both of the untags flying around together, which was a really helpful side-by-side comparison of those flight feathers. And yeah, one of the untags is molting their inner primary, so the outer feathers, but the farthest ones in. So it kind of looks like they have a little notch out of kind of the end of their fingers where it meets the rest of the wing. The other untagged is like perfect, pristine feathers, beautiful. So we're not quite sure who is who yet, I think. But yeah, that's really, really helpful when we get screenshots from Explore viewers, and especially when they show those identifying markings and we can confirm who those chicks are.
As we always say, it's a good problem to have when you have perfect birds. Oh, and this is actually pretty exciting too.
Yeah, so one of these birds, we presume one of these two, we don't really know, but an untagged bird also visited the San Simeon Sanctuary on March 17th and 18th and the 22nd. So hung out there for quite a while and was feeding with the other birds. They actually went inside the trap there. You can see on that photo in the right, it's outside the trap, but it did go inside the trap to feed. And was bathing and hanging out with all the other young juvenile birds. So that was really cool. There was no parents around or, suspected parents around. So that's a good sign that this chick is pretty independent. It's possible this was even an untagged from Pinnacles, one of the Pinnacles nests that made it down. We don't really know because there were no parents around to kind of confirm for us. So it was a bit of a mystery. But I think while this chick was down in San Simeon, we only saw one untagged in Big Sur. And then after it left, we saw two untags back in Big Sur. So if I had to guess, I'd say it was probably one of the coastal birds, but we don't really know. We have quite a few untags floating around out there now, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's the best.
Cool. And yeah, I can jump in on nests, but Darren, feel free to chime in as well. But yeah, it's exciting to hear about all the nests in Southern California. we're at pretty similar numbers here in Central California, with 8 total nest attempts so far. Right now we have 6 active nests out of those 8 attempts. And so I think last chat we only had a couple to report on, so it's exciting to be able to confirm a few more of these. In terms of Pinnacle's nests, they had 5 total nest attempts. Unfortunately, they did have a couple failures. So they had that early trio nest that we announced last chat between 692, 726, and 966. That trio's first attempt failed. It was super early in February. They were the very first pair or slash trio to nest this year. And they have recycled. They've tried again. So we don't know yet if both females have laid eggs again, or if just one female has laid an egg, but they know at least one female laid an egg on March 9th. And so that egg will hopefully hatch May 4th. And I believe Pinnacles will hopefully be able to do a nest entry on that nest, but we'll see. And then their other trio in the park, 340, 913, and 889, they did attempt to lay kind of at the end of February. And they did lay at least one egg, but unfortunately Pinnacles just did a nest entry this week, and they only found egg fragments, so they don't know exactly what happened to the egg, whether it was predated or maybe got crushed during incubation. They're not sure. They just saw the eggshell fragments in the nest, so unfortunately that trio has failed this year. Who knows, they might retry, or maybe if only one female laid an egg, the other female might lay an egg, so there's still potential there, but unfortunately they are confirmed failure. And then Pinnacles has 2 other nests, one of which is in the park, 569 and 589, who we talked about a little earlier, who were the parents that raised 996. And they're going for their 6th year in a row, which is wild. They were successful the 5 previous years, back to back to back to back to back. And all of those chicks were females, which is also really cool. So we're not sure what this chick is going to be yet. It's expected to hatch April 9th, but we're really excited that they are going again this year. They're just our rock star pair for Central California at this point, I feel like. And then Pinnacles has another nest that's outside the park that involves 747 and 1034. Some of you savvy viewers and watchers probably may know that 1034 is actually 747's son. So unfortunately, that's a bit of an unfortunate pairing there. But he only shares half her DNA, so hopefully in terms of genetics and stuff, it won't be too much of an issue. They laid pretty early in February, and so their egg is expected to hatch in just a couple days at the end of March. Unfortunately, it's outside the park, so it's not one that Pinnacles can monitor very closely. It's on private property. And then on the coastal side of things, we have 3 confirmed active nests. I think last chat we were suspecting some of these, but we've been able to confirm them now. So 190 and 745 are nesting. This is a new pairing. 190 decided to switch it up this year and choose a new male, which is exciting. And it still appears they're going strong. Their eggs due to hatch really soon on April 7th. And then 317 and 665, who are also a new pairing. You all might remember 317 was a bird that nested farther inland with Pinnacles bird 330, who unfortunately died at the end of last year. And so she is now back out on the coast, back in her old stomping grounds, and has picked a new mate in 665. 665 is a wild fledged chick. So he was wild hatched. He was a foster chick. And this is his first time nesting. So we're really excited. He's been a really dominant bird that's been pretty consistent presence on the coast. So it's cool to see him finally nesting this year. And then 840 and 1031 and Nico are confirmed nesting. So this is a super remote nest that unfortunately we are not able to monitor visually. So we're using GPS to monitor this nest. And we hope to get a GPS on 840. We have one on 1031 right now. So that's how we're monitoring this pair's movements. But 1031 and 840 are still coming out to the coast. They're still being seen on the cam. So it's really exciting. When one bird is not incubating, we wait around and see if the other one shows up on the coast and shows up at the feeding site. And the coolest thing, I think, is that all 3 of these nests, it seems like they all laid on the same day on February 10th, which is really cool. And so they should all hatch around the same time. So yeah, pretty exciting. Something was in the air around February 10th, I guess, and the females all decided to go for it. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, these are our 6 active nests, 8 total attempts, and hopefully a few more.
Yeah, it was close to Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I guess romance. Yeah. And so yeah, Pinnacles has two potential pairs that could nest this year. I think they're kind of thinking that 868 and 931 will probably not nest this year. They did have a successful nest last year. And they are a pair that has nested consecutively before, but based on their behavior, Pinnacles is thinking they probably won't nest this year, but who knows? Condors love to surprise us. And then 1036 Rosalie and 888 Cedric are potentially a new pair. This would be 1036's first time breeding. And they actually were seen out on the coast this week, which was really exciting. It's been a long time since I've seen either of these birds. So it was really cool. When I was up at the sanctuary, I got to see both of them. And so hopefully maybe this is their little baby moon vacation before they go back to Pinnacles and lay an egg and start nesting. We'll see. But yeah, that would be a really, really exciting new pair for this year.
Yeah, we're definitely well within the West nest window for some of these pairs wanting to pull the trigger late.
Absolutely, yeah. February, March are kind of the two biggest months for egg lays, so we're still in that window for sure. And then another really exciting update in terms of Ventana birds, we do suspect that Thunder Chief 758 and Madeline 936 are nesting, which I know a lot of people will be very excited about because we've been watching this pair for several years now. 936 is going on 8 years old now, and she has never attempted to nest yet. And we think she might have laid an egg. So we haven't been able to confirm that 100% yet, but hopefully by the next chat, we'll have a bit more data and be able to say for sure. But yeah, very exciting if they are indeed attempting. They've never attempted before, so definitely we're all trying not to get our hopes too high, but it's definitely, we have had first time pairs be successful. So we'll see.
Got my
Hopefully,
fingers and toes crossed.
I know, yeah. Hopefully they got it down from all of their time watching other birds nest and delaying for a bit. But yeah, pretty exciting. I think people that watch the Sansumi and cams are definitely have started to clue into that fact that these two birds are starting to be seen separately when previously they were showing up together all the time. So that's a good indication that they're potentially nesting.
Very cool. Exciting times. And
And then, yeah, we have a couple more nests that we're still fingers crossed for. 470 Fuego and 962 Soto are due to nest this year. They were successful in 2024, so they skipped last year and are due to nest this year. Same thing with Shadow 209 and Minerva 881. They're a super established pair as well, and have some experience. So it's kind of interesting that they're waiting later in the nesting season to get started, but we're hoping that they're still planning on nesting this year. Time will tell. And then we still have what we're now calling, one of our volunteers coined this term, and I love it, but we're calling them the drama trio because they're not a true trio, but they are causing drama with each other. So 646 Kodama, 652 Ferdinand, and 550, Pinnacles Bird 550. Many of you know 652 and 550 were a pair for many years. They successfully fledged 1315. Most recently in 2024. And you know, this year has been a bit of a mix-up with 892 Vincent dying right at the end of December. That was 646 Kodama's mate. And so with 646 being now single and having a really good nest that we have a camera in, I think she's kind of attracted the attention of Ferdinand. And he's really keen on her nest and her nest territory. But 550 is not so keen on 646. So there was a lot of interesting interactions between these three birds when I was up at the sanctuary this week. That photo on the right is the two females. 550 is on the right there and 646 is on the top. And they had a good stare down and face off in that tree for a while. And then 550 spent the better part of like 2 hours just chasing 646 around and telling her exactly what she thought of her, trying to steal 652 away. So it's very, very dramatic. It's very interesting. We don't know how it's going to shake out. And it is getting later in the nesting season. So it's possible we might not get an egg from either of these females this year. But I'm really hoping 652 just makes up his mind and just picks one of them so the other one can move on. We've got plenty of unpaired males around. But unfortunately, 652 just really seems to be capturing everybody's attention right now. He's been displaying to a bunch of other birds too. He's been displaying to 962 and 881, and I guess I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him, but he is the bachelor of the season, even though he's not a bachelor.
Yep. He's liking the attention, it seems like.
I think so. I think a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah, on that note, yeah, we have our Explore Nest Cam going, but we're like as Danae just pointed out, we're waiting for things to shake out with 646 and 550 and the drama trio. But hopefully we get some action at that nest this year. You know, we are, as we always say, on condor time, so it may take them another season to figure things out. We still got a lot of time left in this nest season. You never know, another pair might move in and take that territory over. It's anything's possible. So it's a pretty prime nest spot. So we'll be excited to see what happens either way. But yeah, again, none of this is scripted, so we are as a captive audience just like you guys. So just see what unfolds, right? Oh,
Yeah,
the
and then just to
slide's a little
round things
messed up.
off.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. Yeah, we got a couple more young females that could potentially breed this year. 1089, little great one, who most of you remember fledged from a coastal nest. She was 204 and 646's chick. And then 1104 otters kind of cut off there, but she was also a wild fledge out on the coast, Big Sur coast. So those two are reaching 5 years old. So it's possible they could nest this year, as well as both pinnacles females 1078 and 1081. All four of these birds spend a lot of time out on the coast, so it's possible that if they choose to nest, they might nest out on the coast this year. We haven't seen any breeding behavior yet in terms of, picking out a nest site and forming a pair potentially, but definitely lots of eligible males around, like 650 in this photo, displaying to 1081, who looks not incredibly interested, unfortunately. But definitely, I feel like this happened 2 years ago in 2024 with 470 and 962. We thought, 962 laid the egg like 2 days after her fifth birthday, and we thought there's no way she could be nesting. She's too young. And we thought she might have died, and we were really worried about her. And then sure enough, she was just sitting on an egg incubating. So yeah, really, really could happen at any time for any of these birds. And sometimes it seems like it takes them a while to figure it out, and sometimes it seems like they just it clicks into place. And 1 week they're single, the next week they're sitting on an egg. So it really could happen at any time. And as Joe said, we still have several months left of egg laying season possibilities. So fingers crossed for a few more nests.
Yep, sure. All right. Well, Kelly, you want to talk about what big event we got coming up?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We haven't done an in-person fundraising event for a long time, since before COVID, and we thought we'd bring it back. Feathers in Flight. Some of you might remember coming to this event in the past. We've mostly held it in Big Sur, but this year it's going to be in Carmel Valley at Hidden Valley Music Seminars. They're offering the space for free, and we're putting together music, food, drinks, lots of great opportunity to interact with staff and learn more about what we're doing on a daily basis, and how your funding makes it all possible. So if you're in the area, please join us. If you're not, we'll also have an online auction that will run from May 28th through June 8th, the day after the in-person event.
And we have Antonio Ballesteri there with a peregrine falcon, right?
Yeah. And Antonio Ballesteri is going to be there with a peregrine falcon, talking about the conservation of the peregrine falcon and how that connects to the work that we do. And actually, talking about the peregrine falcon this year is especially important. Paper just came out. One of our colleagues showed that, unfortunately, the peregrines nesting in the San Francisco Bay Area have declined by something like 2/3. Presumably from avian influenza. So it just goes to show how important it is that we're always watching that. Even when you restore a species like the peregrine falcon back to nature, it's not a one and done. You have to always stay on top of it. So just a good lesson for all of us here. when nature gets beat up as bad as it has, it takes a long time to recover, and it's going to be vulnerable for a long time. Anyway, hope to see you on June 7th.
Yeah, that'd be exciting. And again, yeah, we're please donate, support our work, save the condors. There's the website, ventanaws.org/donate to condor recovery. We always appreciate the support. And you can connect with us online. If you watch us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. We're trying to hit a benchmark. I think we're close to 2,000. So trying to hit that benchmark by the end of the month. So please subscribe if you get on there. And of course, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and then you can subscribe to our updates, get the full crop. And yeah, we have the QR code there too. And before we get to questions, Mike, do we have any updates on non-lead?
Yeah. Did you have a slide for me?
I did, and I don't know where it went. I transferred files and something got mixed up, but I apologize
Okay, well,
for that.
You know, I never liked PowerPoint much anyway. You know, if people have seen enough, but I will say this about the non-lead. People have asked, what are you doing for non-lead? And we're giving out a lot of ammunition. Up to today, this year we've given away 354 boxes of non-lead ammunition. That's about 4 boxes a day, I guess. That's not too bad. One exciting thing is we have a new grant coming on, which will allow us to provide more ammunition store events. So we're working with local stores to provide the general public with free or reduced cost ammunition, trying to connect the hunters with their local stores. That's what's going to really signal success long term. And then I was going to discuss our Safe Forage network in about a minute. You won't be able to see the picture that I had, but imagine putting together a jigsaw puzzle at home. If you're sitting in front of the TV and you got this 1,000-piece puzzle and you're just having trouble finding that one piece that fits, that's what we're doing with our rancher connections, providing free non-lead ammunition to landowners. We have an application that allows us to merge our condor feeding data with our outreach data to help us identify priorities for non-lead outreach. And we can measure how many landowners where condors are feeding have we provided non-lead ammunition to. And as we color these puzzle pieces green, we see that we're making progress. We have a strategic plan goal to reach 2/3 of those landowners where condors are feeding. Well, currently we've provided non-lead ammunition to 27% of those landowners. Is that good? All I know is that it needs to get better, and it is getting better. We've made tremendous success in these last few weeks, really generating momentum to getting more of those puzzle pieces into our completed puzzle. And so that's something that we're looking forward to sharing more with you as we progress. But we are reaching those landowners where the help is needed the most. And that's your 1-minute glimpse into the non-lead outreach.
That's awesome. Yeah, so how do we have time for questions, Mike, or how are we looking?
Not really, but let me throw a couple quick ones at you. A question about the total population of California condors now.
The world, like captive and wild?
Let's say wild free-flying birds. Have we reached 400 yet?
No, we're just shy of 400. The total is just over, we did reach for captive and wild. We are over 600, which is a big milestone for sure. But I think we're just shy of 400 in the wild.
Okay.
I don't have that population sheet right in front of me. We showed it last talk,
Yeah.
last chat. But yeah, I think we're just shy of 400. But yeah, so I'm thinking next year we hopefully will surpass that.
Yeah, that's a benchmark for sure. Christy
Heck
from
yeah.
San Diego provided that question, and Ed, let's say Maddie in no, let's go with Ed in Morro Bay. He wanted to elaborate how many condors in the world, and that could be a taxonomic thing because there are Andean condors as well. And while we measure the California condor population in the hundreds, you can measure the Andean condor in the thousands, but not many thousands. The population estimate most recently, I think, was just under 7,000. So that's a species that's not doesn't have the same critical endangered status as the California, but it is relatively uncommon. One question is, can we have Molly join us several times a year? And I think that would be certainly,
Heck yeah, if she's up for it, we're up for it.
that'd certainly be a good thing. So, so we really appreciate Molly being with us. Maddie in England is asking, is there any particular reason that some condors don't have names while others do? Joe, can you set us straight on that?
Yeah, and it varies by release site manager. So for Ventana, we actually name birds, but Pinnacles National Park does not. They just stick with the numbers. And yeah, we would have to ask them specifically, but I think it's park policy. They don't name animals, but they have named some with some native, with
It sounded like there was an exception earlier
Yeah.
in the presentation. One of the birds that had died received a Native American name, and that might be part of the exceptions.
Yeah, but in general, they tend not to. And same with I think Southern California as well with the Southern California. But I know LA Zoo has named condors. The first condors they started captive, when they were captive breeding. As Molly pointed out in her presentation, when they brought them in 1987 and started captive breeding, they named a lot of those birds based on the Chumash tribe. I think named a lot of those birds. But yeah, it's kind of not been a consistent thing. Probably more so at Ventana. I think we are pretty consistent with that. But yeah, it varies. But yeah. So when you see our update, when we say Pinnacles bird, it's just the stud book number.
Thanks to Molly Murphy from the Santa Barbara Zoo. Joe, take us home.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. Thank you, everyone, for joining our next chat. You see it right there, April 30th, 2026 at 4 p.m. And yeah, we'll try to get Molly back for an update on maybe a post nest season wrap up. We could maybe do that. Maybe you'll have some cool new videos. But yeah, pretty exciting. And yeah, I think we're all excited with the, I like when I see cool technologies like that, helping us out in the field when we have limited resources in some of these really remote areas. So great job, Molly and crew down there. All right. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to our crew here, too, and everybody. And yeah, look forward to seeing everybody next month. Thank you.
I know.